A riot breaks out at a Seattle worship service. Tarot card usage is up to 30% in the US, and a white couple gives birth to an Asian baby due to a fertility clinic mishap. Hey guys, I'm Father David Michael Moses. I'm a Catholic priest, and if you appreciate these types of videos, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. We're almost up to 350,000 subscribers, so thank you so much for staying connected. Let's jump right in.
A violent riot broke out at a worship service in Seattle, and it's catching headlines all around the world. Well, Ross Johnston, one of the co-leaders of this revival event, joins us now. So Ross, a lot is being said about this event. What actually happened?
Well, I can let you know this. In the last 72 hours, it has been the wildest 3 days of my entire life in ministry and outside of ministry. What actually happened is, and like you said, this has reached the White House, it's reached the UK Daily Mail. I mean, it's reaching not just local and national, but international news. And so as the church, as a fellow believer, we always want honesty and the truth to prevail. And so we showed up at Cal Anderson Park, and as we were there, we actually received reports the night before that there would be some protesters. Now, for us as Christians, as believers, and just as Americans, we want every single person to have the ability to express and to take advantage of their constitutional rights, right? The freedom of speech, the freedom of religion. So we're welcoming protesters. We want anybody there, even if you disagree with us, not to mention, we know you're going to get under the presence of God. You're going to hear worship. You're going to hear the gospel. Sounds like a win to me.
I love that perspective. At the end of the day, we're trying to evangelize. We're trying to go outside the church. So if non-Christians are saying we're coming to your event, even if they do that in frustration, you're like, come on, you're the people we want absolutely the most. So I really appreciate that perspective.
And so as I'm on stage, our main event was supposed to start at 5 p.m. We got there at 1 p.m. because we were giving away free haircuts, grocery giveaways. I mean, we really just wanted to bless the community.
That's cool. They're not just preaching, they're actually doing stuff for the community. Again, kind of ties in with that. So many of the things that we do as a church, we do so many good things. I'm a huge fan of the church, obviously. But a lot of it is for people who are coming to church already. Like in terms of evangelization, going outside the scope of the normal parishioner, what exactly is there? I think this kind of stuff is really worth looking at. Haircuts, groceries, all of that.
We found out very quickly that the protesters weren't going to be peaceful and had another agenda in mind. And so as I'm on the stage, I look to my left and I see protesters. They're about 10, 15, 20 feet away from the stage. They have signs up, they're giving us certain fingers on their hand. They're saying a lot of different things. And so I recognized really quickly, okay, this isn't just going to be a few rowdy people here. We have a real situation on our hand. And so long story short, I'm on stage. I look to my left. A guy starts beelining it directly for me from the protester line. He hops over the barricade, and our MD of our worship band has to jump off stage and tackle him. Otherwise, the headline, Raj, would be a little bit different today. It might be revivalist preacher Ross punches a protester on stage to defend himself. And so once again, this turned into a riot in Seattle. There was 23 arrests made.
Gosh, that is crazy. They're giving away free haircuts. They're giving away groceries. They're preaching about Jesus, preaching about loving their neighbor. And these people come, and it seems like they were trying to assault the organizers. Not difficult, I think, to see here already what side has goodness in it and what side has darkness.
All on the protester side. One police officer ended up in the hospital. We actually came to find out that one of them actually pulled a knife and threatened a 17-year-old on our side. And not to mention, while the kids were getting haircuts, there was actually sexually, explicit, lewd acts being done directly in front of the children. And so,
oh my gosh. Especially, yeah, if you're trying to violate the innocence of children, that is super, super dark. It's just crazy.
We are looking at evil in its face, and we are here to expose it as the body of Christ.
Okay, so what did the mayor of Seattle say about your event? And also, who were some of the groups that were protesting?
Yeah, so we definitely had...
I will say some friends and I went to Seattle, nothing against the people in Seattle, but it was clear from, let's say, the branding and the messaging of the restaurants and that kind of stuff, that there was an agenda in this city, in this state, that there was an agenda, and a lot of it wasn't of God.
Antifa, Transtifa, the Communist Party of America, yes, you heard that right, that is an actual group, showed up. We had clergy from the city who affirmed same-sex attraction, same-sex marriage. They showed up as well. I mean, we had the entire gauntlet, so to speak. We had every base covered of protesters, those who disagree with us on all different sides. And it's really important to understand a few different things with all the media coverage and all the media reports. You know, Cal Anderson Park, to be honest, is the beast of the belly, right? That park is known as an LGBTQ specific park. You know, it's very quote unquote inclusive. All the different communities gather there almost like a central point. And so they felt, that community, those protesters felt that we were attacking them and we were trying to elicit a response. But what they don't know is we actually tried to get a permit for Pike's Place, a completely different location. The city refused and said, hey, we recommend Cal Anderson Park. And we're like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, we are open to it. We want to work.
That's really interesting. They wanted to go somewhere else that it maybe would have been less of backlash. But the city recommended this spot, so they did, and all of this happened. So it wasn't like they were trying to provoke something. Kind of wild that the group that often preaches the most about welcoming lots of different ideas and people who think differently than you, that's all great if you have new and different ideas, as long as it's not Jesus, as long as it's not convictions about the best thing for humanity, the best way for people to live. Even seeing this on social media, because I kind of have a sense of some of the landscape there with what we do, and I'm seeing people say, you know, the time for being nice, it has passed. We can't be nice anymore. We have to be stronger. I've even seen influencers say, like, we've got to be mean. It's time to be mean. That's the only way we're going to get our point across. And that seems to be inciting violence in people. Crazy to think that this is a good way to push your agenda, even if you think you're right, to be explicit in front of children, to pull knives on people. This is so clearly wrong.
Peacefully, we want to gather lawfully, but just recognize what that's going to look like. And so that's ultimately why we chose that park and why we went there.
And what did the mayor have to say?
So the mayor came out with a statement about an hour after the event, which you know this being a journalist, you might want to wait a little bit longer than an hour before you release an official statement as an elected politician. But he basically said, I'm paraphrasing here, that we as Christians were attacking his community because our beliefs are inherently opposed to theirs, which begs the question, what beliefs are you talking about as an elected politician? Are you talking about the Bill of Rights, the U.S. Constitution? I mean, what are we talking about here? And so it's really important to understand that when he said this, he was ultimately, without saying it, choosing a side. He was choosing the protester side. And so we just knew we had to stand against that.
That is wild too. I agree with him, and I think about this as a priest a lot. Be careful commenting on things too quickly, because so often with the media and just with the way human nature works, it's very hard to know the actual nature of situations. So it's weird that he would jump on that so quickly. But also for the mayor to basically be taking the side of people who were injuring police, pulling knives on people, is really crazy.
So I think for a lot of people watching this, they might be surprised at your background, your parents' background. Can you give us a little insight of where you come from?
Yeah, I was born by artificial insemination. I grew up in a lesbian household with two moms. I had never been to church my whole life.
Wow, that's a bomb to drop. That he's very, very familiar actually with a lot of this movement. He grew up with it, and yet he has not continued to see that as the best way of living.
15 years old, a friend invites me to church. I encounter the presence of Jesus, and I was an easy one. I said, I want more of this. I want to know who God is. I want to know who Jesus is. I want you, Holy Spirit. And in that moment, I became a born-again Christian, which obviously adds a layer to this because they're saying that we hate the community and all these different things. And I'm like, wait, I have a lesbian mom till this day who I love, who I have a great relationship with. I've shared the gospel with her. She's a financial donor in my ministry. I mean, you can't make this story up. And so that's how the Lord met me and how he transformed my life.
That's so interesting. People, they set up this false dichotomy that if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, that means you don't love them. That means you hate them is the way that's actually phrased. Whereas I would argue that love is willing the good of the other. So actually loving someone in some cases is exactly disagreeing with their lifestyle because you don't think that's good for them. That doesn't mean you stop talking with them. It doesn't mean you cut the relationship off with them. This is his mom. She donates to his ministry. She is a good there. Clearly they disagree about their lifestyle, and that's an important disagreement, but it's not something to become violent over. So this false dichotomy that gets set up is very much from the enemy, and you see the fruit of that here.
So Ross, let's just say someone who was at that event that was protesting, or maybe the volume is turned down a little bit and they're actually watching, and you have this opportunity to speak to someone, anywhere in the world, anywhere in this country, who says, okay, you guys are just here to provoke, you guys are full of hate, you guys go down the list of accusations, but they're actually watching you right now. So let's say my friend here who is, opposed to everything that you stand for and is really upset about this event, what would you want to tell my friend here?
Absolutely. I think there's two things. Number one, the facts, right? There was 23 arrests. All of them were on the protester side. Multiple police officers were assaulted. There was water balloons with urine being thrown. There's 2 people who rushed the stage. I mean, those are just the facts of the event. Secondly, I would say this.
The fact that all the arrests were on one side says a lot. Throwing water balloons with pee in them? What the heck? I mean, I'd be curious to know who can defend the opposite side of this. I mean, that's disgusting.
We desire anybody and everybody to be at our event, whether you're with us or you think you're against us. Why is that? Well, earlier, as I mentioned, we're in the amazing nation of the United States of America, where just yesterday we celebrated the millions of men and women who laid down their lives so that we have the opportunity to express the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion. So I would tell you this. Our desire when we come to cities is we want to bless the cities with free haircuts, grocery giveaways. We want to have real conversations. We want to share about the God who saved us and set us free in hopes that the same would happen for you.
It reminds me, my dad likes to say, no good deed goes unpunished. So when you try to do something good, so often you get punished for it. And that's them. They're trying to bring free groceries, free haircuts to a community, and they thank them by throwing water balloons filled with pee. That is often the case, and it's sad. But I'm glad he doesn't seem discouraged. He seemed like he wants to keep doing this stuff.
Last question, buddy. What is God up to right now in Seattle?
Well, I think it's really simple. We are in revival and reformation. What do I mean by that? I'm a preacher. I travel America. I've done these outdoor events. People see me like, that's revivalist Ross, the proclamation of the gospel, worship, baptisms. But what we're seeing in this hour is a merging of not just revival, but reformation, where Jesus prayed this: Father, let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We desire that not just in the 4 walls of the church, but to reach every major sphere of society in hopes that the greatest harvest in recorded history would take place in our generation as we host the presence of the Lord and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ.
So I appreciate his spirit a lot. He doesn't seem discouraged. He doesn't seem angry even. In fact, he seems very, very hopeful about what they're doing, and he's going to keep doing it. And that's the kind of stuff that we need. So listen to all this. Here's my deep spiritual advice as a priest. Have some common sense. When one side, and I don't even want to say sides here because they weren't trying to incite anything. When a group of people is giving away free haircuts and groceries and preaching about the love of God, and somebody else shows up and is throwing water balloons filled with urine, just use your common sense. Just use your common sense about who's right about that, about which side is actually loving, by which side actually cares about people. Sometimes it's not that nuanced. Sometimes it's not that complicated. And we're kind of entering, I was growing up, it was a lot of like, guys, we just need to have dialogue. We need to have peaceful dialogue. That was I was hearing a lot about. And now it's like a lot of people are like, nah, ditch the peaceful dialogue. I hate these people. They should go away. And I'm going to use violence and knives and urine and lewd acts in front of kids to get my point across. Don't give in to that, and don't say like, oh, well, they felt bad or they felt threatened. No. There is no justification for any of those behaviors with what was going on in this dynamic. So crazy stuff. We have to kind of keep our heads about us. Let's jump into this next thing. I was sad to see, this isn't super surprising based on my experience as a priest, but it's interesting to see an actual stat about this. New study from Pew Research says 30% of Americans consult astrology, tarot cards, or fortune tellers. Over the past decade, media reports have described a rise in interest in New Age practices. You might have heard the term New Age. That's what we're kind of referring to, is this type of stuff. They especially say it's associated with social media platforms like TikTok and other platforms, especially because of the social distancing from the pandemic. Apparently that led to a rise in people looking towards these types of things. So people consult astrology or horoscope. So that says like what month you were born. Now it does say most Americans do it just for fun, not because they're trying to make big decisions, but that's actually part of the problem. The issue with this stuff is not that it isn't real. When I was a kid, I used to think, the problem with these things is that it's not real and we should be focused on God and not fake things. That's actually wrong. I've realized as a priest. The problem with all of these things is not that they aren't real, it's that they are real. The problem isn't that they don't have power. The problem is that they do have power. And they have a power, not of God, but a real power that can mess up your life. And I've heard of situations, even personally, where people's lives get really messed up because of these types of visits. So people say they do it just for fun. The issue is that if you decided I'm gonna go swimming with sharks, not because I think it's really powerful, but because I just am gonna do it for fun, are you gonna get messed up by sharks? Yeah. If you decide that you're just gonna do drugs for fun, does that mean the drugs won't affect you? No, the drugs will still affect you. It's the devil who convinces people that it'll be fine because they're just doing it for fun, because that gets more people to do it. And what's happening here, what I kind of compare it to is it's like if you're opening like a spam email that comes in and you click the link, will it definitely give your computer a virus? Maybe not. Like you might be okay. You might have a good enough computer that catches it, or maybe the link ends up not actually being a virus, whatever. But could it give your computer a virus that really, really messes up your entire computer? Absolutely. So in the same way with fortune tellers, tarot cards, all this stuff, is it possible you go and don't actually get like possessed or obsessed or something? Yeah, I mean, it's possible that you might be okay. It's still a sin, but you might be okay afterwards. But is it also possible that by opening yourself up to this, something horrible is gonna happen? Absolutely. Maybe another example is like, if you leave your door unlocked at your house, is it a sure thing that you're gonna get robbed? No. It's possible no one will check the door. It's possible no one will see it. But if you leave the door unlocked, or even worse, if you open up the door and just leave it in the neighborhood, is it possible someone's just gonna come in your house and take all your valuables? Totally. And is that gonna be a huge problem? Yeah. So the point being, it's not worth it. Just lock your door. Leave it closed. In the same way, this is not worth it. Do not go to a fortune teller. Don't go consult tarot cards, any of that stuff. It's simply not worth it. One interesting thing is there's a lot of differences by age and gender. So it's a lot of younger women who are involved in astrology, horoscopes. 43% of women ages 18 to 49 say they believe in astrology. That compares to 27% of women ages 50 and older, and 20% of men age 18 to 49 is 60% of men age 50 or older. So as people get older, it seems like they tend to believe in this stuff or use this stuff a little bit less. Also kind of interesting that Americans who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender are especially likely to consult astrology or horoscopes or tarot cards. About half of LGBT Americans consult astrology or horoscopes at least once a year. So it is encouraging that only 1% of US adults say they rely a lot on what they have learned from these things. And about 5% say they rely a little bit, but still a great example, look at The Exorcist Files. It's a podcast online, and it talks a lot about how people, they were doing Ouija board maybe just for fun, right? And a Ouija board is a kid's toy. If you were the devil, would you, if you tried to get a bunch of people engaged in the dark forces out there, wouldn't you try to make it look fun? Wouldn't you try to make it look innocent? That's the reason we've had problems with things like pornography or premarital intercourse. People are like, oh, it's just for fun. It's just a way to relax, right? They downplay it, and that's exactly what the devil wants. One thing I found interesting is atheists and agnostics are actually less likely than the general public to believe in astrology, which I mean, that's something we got in common with atheists. We both think astrology is a bad idea. A priest mentioned this recently at a formation event that we had. In the past, when the church was evangelizing, we were going to pagan kind of cultures, and we were talking with people who did believe in spiritual powers. They believed in some gods or God or something like that. And we actually had to help them take that spiritual belief and elevate it, purify it toward the truth that there is a God who loves you, who created you. He is incarnate in the person of Jesus Christ, who suffered and died for our sins and wants to give us new life and bring us to heaven forever, to bring them Christianity. It was a pivot, a spiritual pivot from a basic spiritual belief into the fullness of the truth that we're trying to bring them. What you're finding today is with so many people, they don't have any kind of religion. They don't have any kind of spiritual belief. They're materialistic. They think the whole world is simply matter and there is nothing beyond that. And that's actually a challenge when it comes to evangelization and Christianity, because not only do we have to help them see that Jesus Christ was God, we have to start by actually helping them believe that there is something beyond the physical world, that there is some spiritual. And that in itself can be a big jump. And then we have to form that spiritual understanding into to the truth. So the fact that these rates are actually up in America is bad. I mean, it's a challenge for us, and it's very, very dangerous. But I think it does give us a unique opportunity to say, okay, if you believe there is something to the spiritual, if you believe there is a way in which all things are working together, then we can take that and purify that and actually level that up. So it's a good thing to be aware of in terms of evangelization, ultimately. But seriously, people, stay away from that stuff. Please stay away from that stuff. It's dangerous. It's not worth it. It's not good. Okay, last thing I wanted to get here. I heard about this story on Matt Fradd's. Shout out to Matt Fradd. He is a legend, Pints with Aquinas. He had a lady on who mentioned this story, so I thought it was worth bringing up, and I'm glad she was drawing some attention to it. Here's an article. The headline is, White Couple Gave Birth to Asian Daughter After Fertility Clinic Mishap. A white Jersey couple who had a daughter through IVF, so it may not be surprising. This came from in vitro fertilization. That's the only way I think this could happen. They were stunned when the baby developed Asian features. And a DNA test proved the husband was not the father, according to their lawsuit against the clinic. The couple, sadly now divorced, went to the Institute for Reproductive Medicine and Science at St. Barnabas in 2012. It's sad that they're using a saint name for that. And they spent $500,000 on treatment. That's part of, there's a lot to get into here about IVF, but one of the problems is that it costs so much. This is a business. This is a business. And it's a business that is actually preying on people who are, in a lot of ways, in many situations, desperate. Like they're looking for something. They want to have a child so bad, which is a beautiful, good desire. And they're willing to do almost anything. They're willing to pay almost anything. And sadly, a lot of these clinics prey on these people, and they know that they're desperate for a child, and they're willing to go through rounds and rounds and rounds of treatment, sometimes spending $500,000 basically supporting this business. And it doesn't always even work out. In this case, they ended up with somebody else's baby. The daughter was born in 2013, and a couple years later, they noticed the baby starting to have Asian features. A DNA test confirmed that there was a 0% probability that Drew, 49, was his daughter's biological father, according to the suit. The clinic's negligence caused the breakdown of the marriage between the family. A Superior Court judge last month ordered the clinic to hand over a list of men who donated sperm around the same time the couple used the facility, in the hopes of narrowing down who the girl's biological father is. Just wild situation. This is just so wild. The parents want to know whose sperm was used so they can learn about their now 6-year-old daughter's genetic history, and in case she wants to have a relationship with her biological dad in the future. Which is, I appreciate that they want her to know. They love her very much, but it's very sensitive, a very stressful situation for them. They also want to know if the father's sperm was used for someone else's treatment. That's the thing. So there's two huge things right here. First of all, they recognize that their child biologically has another father, and that man might want a relationship with the child. That child might want a relationship with him. Of course, they love her. But the other part of it is does this couple have a child out there that is their biological child, but they don't even know about, that somebody else is taking care of? The couple is seeking damages, of course, and there's an institute thoroughly examining the situation. Finally, last month, an Ohio couple who also went through IVF treatment filed a lawsuit claiming their clinic used a stranger's sperm to father their now 24-year-old daughter. So this is not the first time it's happened. And honestly, if you're looking at different ethnicities, this would probably not even come up in the same way as it did in this one. So it could have happened many times that people don't even know about. Golly, wild story, and feel really bad for this couple. That's got to be traumatic. And I'm also very sad that their marriage didn't work out. Hopefully everything is able to be clarified for those involved. But I will say, when we start to do things outside of the way God has planned for humanity, there's all these very, very negative ripple effects. When we decide that we know better than God does, then we open ourselves up to all kinds of tragedies. And when it comes to IVF, this is a huge thing. You may not even get your own child. Just like people mistake things all the time in different businesses, these clinics can make mistakes. And it is a hugely life-changing mistake that you could have someone else's child and someone else could have yours. I'll probably make a dedicated video to this issue, but the effects are just multiple when it comes to this. The biggest one, I think, being that so often the embryos that are not considered, I mean, they're babies, they're human lives. When they're not considered viable, what they do is they often discard them. It's an abortion, basically. They kill the child, they murder the child. And along with that, other ones that are maybe more viable get frozen, and sometimes they're never implanted. So they're frozen indefinitely. Human beings, babies, who are frozen indefinitely in freezers. In the United States alone, I think it's something like close to 1 million frozen embryos. 1 million frozen people. Crazy. So as if we needed another reason to know this is a bad idea, here is this one. So I always want to say there's other options rather than sin. And there are a lot of really great clinics who are in line with the Catholic Church, helping women to get their hormones right, or working with the man, what might be going on biologically with him, to help them to have a baby naturally, the way God has planned. So there are other options, natural options for this kind of stuff that often are not looked at, and they're often a lot cheaper too. And so my heart goes out to couples who are experiencing infertility, and hopefully they can choose a good path, the best path going forward. So wild stuff right now, guys. So many things going on. Let me know what you all think about this stuff, and let me know in the comments other stories that you think might be helpful. Please make sure you subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. God bless.